In the last lesson, you saw how the rectangular base was the first feature built, followed by the tab and the cut. These could all be done in a single 2D sketch, but I prefer sketching and creating features in segments, so they're easier to find and modify later. With that said, I'll start a new part using a metric template. Then start a 2D sketch, and now come to my first decision point, picking the first sketch plane. If I choose the XZ plane, I can sketch the rectangle's top face and extrude it upwards to define the thickness. If I choose the XY or YZ planes, I can sketch a thinner rectangle of the front or right side respectively, and then extrude it outwards to add length or width. Since I'm going to be using a mirror feature later, having a plane in the center of my base will be helpful. So the easiest way to track that is to start on the XY plane and sketch the length and height of the base. I'll activate the 2-point rectangle tool, select the origin as the starting point, type 150 millimeters for the width, press the tab key, then type 15 millimeters for the height, and press enter to create the rectangle. I'll double check the status bar to see what I need to do to finish the sketch. And notice that because I started on the origin and input dimensions as I was drawing, that the sketch is already fully constrained. I'll switch to the 3D Model tab, activate the Extrude tool, and since I want a plane in the middle of the base to help with the mirror later, set the base extrude to Symmetric. I'll set the distance to 100 millimeters for the extrude, and click OK to finish the rectangular base. I next need to sketch the tab feature, and once again, keeping the mirror feature in mind, can just create a single tab on one side. I'll start another 2D sketch, and this time select the front face of the base as my plane to make sure the tab is always positioned there, and can now sketch the tab shape. I want to use the top edge of the rectangle as the base of the tab, so I'll need to project it into the sketch. This is something that I find myself doing often, so there is a setting that I like to turn on to speed this up. I'll go to the Tools tab on the ribbon and select Application Options. In the Sketch tab, I'll make sure Auto Project Edges for sketch creation and edit is checked. Click Apply, then close the window. I'll click Undo from the Quick Access toolbar to undo the sketch creation. And this time when I start a new sketch on the same face, you can see that the geometry is automatically brought into the sketch. To now sketch the tab, I'll activate the Line tool, place a point, move upwards, then press Tab and set the angle value to 75, and then press Enter. Next, I'll switch to the Tangent Arc tool, start the arc on the line's free endpoint, input a radius of 25, and press Enter to add the arc. Finally, I'll activate the Line tool once more to close the profile. And make sure to add a tangent constraint between the arc and the second line. Since I told Inventor to project the base geometry into my sketch, I'm now done with the tab shape, but notice that I still need 3 dimensions in order to fully constrain it. Instead of just adding dimensions to everything, I want to keep my design intent for the tab in mind. The first consideration, then, is that I want to center the tab on this face. Since construction geometry will be ignored by Inventor when creating features, I can use the construction line to add additional geometry without impacting the extruded shape. I'll activate the Line tool and select the Construction button on the Format panel. I'll then start a line at the center point of the arc and select the bottom edge's midpoint for the second point. I'll press Escape to end the Line tool, and then add a vertical constraint to the construction line. When I do, it snaps to vertical and has its center positioned. I want the center of the arc to be 50 millimeters up from the edge, so I'll add a dimension, and finally use an equal constraint to make the 2 lines the same length and fully constrain the sketch. I'm ready to extrude the geometry, and when I activate the Extrude command, notice that the vertical construction line is ignored when the profile is selected. I'll extrude the tab 15 millimeters. And notice that, by default, Inventor will always extrude material away from the rest of the model. I'll then use the flip direction button to extrude towards the middle, and I'm done with the tab.